Rain beats the diner windows like a warning. A pregnant woman stumbles inside, palm over her belly, purple bruises blooming. A waitress in a faded apron steps forward, jaw set. Outside, a single Harley idles. Inside, someone whispers, "Rex." The door handle turns. What follows will change a town. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. Morning in Brookside looked ordinary. Coffee steam, truck radios, the clink of forks. At Harper's Corner Diner, Nora Bell wiped rings from Formica like she could erase worry. 32, single mom. Night school nursing classes scribbled between double shifts. She kept her hair in a no-nonsense braid and her head down around trouble. Trouble still found her. Rent past due, transmission slipping, her ex ghosting on child support. Yet Nora had a stubborn way of smiling at strangers, as if kindness might tip fate a degree. She knew regulars by pie flavor, cops by their tired eyes. She'd once learned to leave people to their business. Life had taught her that boundaries could be armor. But life had also taught her something else. When a voice gets small, you lean closer. That morning, the sky wore a film of rain, and the neon open hummed softly. The bell over the door jangled. Every sound in the diner seemed suddenly too loud, then much too quiet. The woman who stumbled through the doorway looked 26 at most. Damp hair sticking to her cheeks. One sleeve was ripped. Her lip bled a thin line that wouldn't quit. She pressed one hand to her abdomen, not yet a full swell, but unmistakable. "Please," she breathed, eyes sweeping the room for shelter. People froze. A fork clattered. Somebody's coffee overflowed. Nora moved. She met the woman halfway and guided her into the corner booth with the widest sightline of exits. "I'm Nora," she said, voice low, steady. "Ice, towels," she told the cook, who didn't ask questions. "Maya," the woman whispered, flinching at her own name like it could call lightning. Outside, a motorcycle idled in the drizzle. The sound a distant animal. "You're safe here," Nora said, meaning it so much her chest hurt. Her hands trembled just a little as she dabbed the blood. She noticed a boot print darkening on Maya's shoulder where fabric had split. She noticed the way fear made breath stutter. Maya's hand shook as she tried to hold the ice herself. Nora kept her own hands visible, her movements calm. "Breathe with me," she said softly, counting into the hush. Colors slowly returned to Maya's face. "We need a doctor," Nora added. "No hospital," Maya blurted, panic flashing. "He watches the ER. He has friends." Nora heard the word behind the words. He. Who? A glance at the door. Rex Malone. The name traveled like a rumor learning legs. A few diners looked down. One old-timer scraped his chair back an inch as if distance could make him innocent. "He's with the Red Skulls," Maya whispered. "He says he owns the roads." "He says he owns me." Nora's jaw set like a door-finding latch. She'd heard of the club, rowdy parades, charity toy runs, bar fights that ended with handshakes. She'd also heard what men could be when their pride broke like glass. "You're not owned," Nora said. The words were small armor, but armor still. Nora did the thing she always did when afraid. She got specific. "How far along?" 4 months. "Any belly pain?" "Cramping earlier." It stopped. "Dizziness?" "Just scared." "We're calling someone," Nora said, mind leaping past doubt. "Not the cops." Small towns had long memories and shorter patience. She remembered a number a biker named Lenny had once left on a napkin after she slipped a free pie to his grieving brother. "If trouble comes, call Warden." She'd stuck it behind the phone. Now she dialed with hands steadier than she felt. A gravel voice answered. "Warden." "Nora Bell from Harper's. I have a pregnant woman named Maya. Bruised," says Rex Malone. Silence sharpened. "Keep her there," Warden said. "We're close." Nora hung up and slid into the booth again. "Help's coming," she promised. Maya squeezed the towel like a hand. Around them, the diner remembered how to breathe. And then the bell rang again, and the room forgot. The bell over the door jangled again. A shape filled the frame. Broad shoulders beneath rain-dark leather, a red skull patch flashing. Rex Malone didn't swagger. He scanned. The room shrank around him. He spotted Maya, and the thin relief on her face vanished. "Baby," he smiled without warmth, palms up like peace. "You scared me." Nora stepped between them, apron damp, towel still in her hand. "She's sitting," Nora said. "You can speak from there." A few customers pretended to study menus as if words could make them invisible. Rex's smile tightened. "You the waitress or security?" "Woman," Nora replied. "That outranks both." He laughed, but there was no humor. "Move." Maya's breath hitched. Nora didn't. Rex took one step. The room held. A whisper from the corner. "Don't." From outside, the idling engine lifted a little like a throat clearing. Rex's eyes flicked toward the window, then back, met by a gaze that didn't blink. Nora's voice low. "Not today." Engines grew from rumor to weather. Headlights fanned across wet pavement, reflections doubling like specters. 3 bikes, then 8, then more. They parked in a V that blocked the diner's sightline from the road. The bell jingled again and a man stepped in. Taller than Rex, older, the kind of calm that doesn't perform. His cut read Warden across the heart, President Rocker arcing his back. His eyes found Maya, softened, then settled on Rex and did not blink. "You lay hands on a woman," Warden said, voice like a truck idling on gravel. "You lay hands on a line you don't cross." Rex stood straighter, nostalgia for authority flickering in his jaw. "Club business." "Human business," Warden answered. He glanced at Nora. "You called?" She nodded. "Then we answer." Outside, boots hit puddles in unison. Inside, the air changed temperature without moving. Rex's bravado flickered into something brittle. "She fell," he tried. Maya's whisper cut him. He kicked. The sound that followed wasn't loud. It was shared. Men in the doorway shifted, shame like a draft. Warden nodded once at Maya, then returned to Rex. "We keep each other human, son. If we stop doing that, patches mean nothing." The room waited. Rex's fingers hovered at his vest like it might burn him to let go. Finally, with a hissed curse, he tugged the leather free. The red skull on the back stared at the floor. Warden took it without ceremony, like picking up a dropped knife. "You don't ride with us," he said, and the words made a silence heavy enough to bend. Rex swallowed. Men like him don't understand emptiness until it sits beside them at a table. He backed away, mouthing something too small to matter. The bell jangled. Rain breathed. No one moved until the door clicked shut. Everyone exhaled at once, like the room had been underwater. The cook restarted the radio and then stopped as if music would make it ordinary. Warden stepped to Maya's booth and crouched, new leather creaking. "We got a safe place," he said gently. "A nurse, locks, women you can trust." Maya stared at Nora. "I don't want to go alone." Nora swallowed. She could clock out, but clocks didn't measure promises. "I'll ride with you," she said. "On a bike?" Lenny, a familiar face under road dust, grinned. "We got a car for this one." They moved like weather systems, purposeful and quiet. Nora left the towel and took Maya's hand. Rex was nowhere and everywhere. The door opened to a wall of chrome made human. As they walked, Nora felt eyes. Not hungry, not judging, but watchful. Like porch lights clicking on up and down a street. The safe house smelled like coffee and laundry soap. A woman named Tasha, sleeve tattoos peeking from a sweatshirt, took Maya's vitals with practiced kindness. "You and baby look steady," she said. "Bruising, but no emergency. We'll get you real care without the drama." Maya cried then, not sharp tears but tired ones, the kind that wash out a corner of a room. Nora sat beside her, rubbing circles on her knuckles. Warden stood near the doorway like a lighthouse, present, not intruding. "Thank you," Maya whispered into her palms. Nora didn't say, "Of course." She said, "We have you." Later, in the kitchen, Warden poured coffee that tasted like nights on the road. "Calling us was brave," he said. Nora shook her head. "She was brave. I just didn't move." He smiled almost. "That's the definition." Outside, rain braided itself into gutters. Somewhere, a man without a vest learned what alone really feels like. Night fell like a held breath. Nora's bungalow sat on a quiet cul-de-sac, sprinkler hiss mixing with distant tires. Two bikes idled at the curb, their riders' silhouettes under a street lamp. June, 9, watched through the curtains with unabashed awe. "Are they superheroes?" she whispered. "They're neighbors who don't run," Nora said, kissing her hair. Fear visited anyway, a thin line drawn from shadow to shadow. Near midnight, a truck rolled past too slow, brake lights flaring for no reason. One rider clicked on his headlamp without moving. The truck continued, casual in a way that wasn't. Nora lay awake and listened to engines learning the lullaby of her street. When she finally slept, it was to the strange comfort of someone else keeping watch. Morning came with tired eyes, fresh coffee, and a note on her porch. Warden's block letters. "We keep our word." Morning brought headlines nobody expected. "Red Skull's president expels member over alleged abuse." A blogger had filmed the vest handoff through the diner glass. Clips spread fast, commentary faster. Some cheered the accountability. Others mocked it as performative. Nora didn't read the comments. She fried eggs. She braided June's hair. She watched a black SUV appear at the corner like a punctuation mark. At the diner, customers came in with questions disguised as orders. "Heard you had some excitement. That guy really out? Is it safe to sit by the window?" Nora poured coffee and let silence be her filter. Warden dropped by mid-morning. Not to posture, just to eat pancakes and be seen. "Light attracts moths," he said. "It also tells lost people where to turn." On the chalkboard, someone scrawled, "Be kind or be quiet." Suspense cracked mid-afternoon. The front window webbed into sparkling lines and blew inward with a rock's blunt logic. Screams, then silence. Glass glittered across counters like cruel frost. Nora ducked, pulled a server down with her. When the ringing quieted, she stood up slowly, blood tiny and bright on her forearm. The street was a smear of faces, no one staying guilty long enough to memorize. Warden arrived before the broom did. He stared at the shattered frame, jaw tight. "Message," he said. Nora nodded. "We answer." "We don't send rocks," he replied. "We send structure." Church, a quiet mechanic with storyteller hands, boarded the window with smooth efficiency. Lenny swept glass like he'd done it before, which he had. Someone taped a sign on the plywood. "Open anyway." Nora made a fresh pot. The first customer back was a woman who left cash and a note that said simply, "Keep doors open." The reply came as quiet organization. Warden convened a meet that wasn't a rally. No live streams, no patches for show. Back room of a bowling alley, lanes clicking, fryer odor sneaking under the door. Men and women came in twos, not because they were hiding, but because truth travels better that way. Warden spoke plain. "We don't recruit. We don't war. We build a shield." He sketched rotations on a whiteboard. Safe house escorts, courthouse walks, school drop-off watches. We do not escalate, he added. We witness. We document. We stand where doors become dangerous. Tasha set a hotline on a donated flip phone. Church offered a garage corner for supplies. Someone asked, "What do we call it?" Nora, surprised to hear her own voice, said, "The doorway." The name stuck like tape that doesn't let go. They left in small groups, engines careful. Outside, rain had given up. The street smelled like wet dust and new plans. Word rippled without shouting. A florist sent bouquets for safe rooms. An auto shop offered winter tires. A church opened its basement on bad nights with no sermon attached. The first hotline call shook at 2:11 a.m., a neighbor whispering about screams through drywall. The team rolled quiet, lights off, Warden in front, Nora in the back of the SUV beside Tasha, hands clenched. They didn't kick doors. They knocked with witnesses and waited for patrol units they'd pre-alerted to meet them. A man opened, drunk and defiant, then saw cameras, saw numbers, saw choices. He cussed himself small while officers stepped in. A girl with mascara comets down her cheeks found Tasha's hoodie and climbed inside it like weather. Back at the safe house, Nora made grilled cheese that tasted like a childhood without shouting. She didn't sleep much. She didn't need to. Dawn felt useful. Rex did not vanish. Men like him rarely do. They pool in shadows and look for reflection. He floated to the edge of town, met with two stragglers who liked chaos more than code. They spray-painted a threat on the alley behind Nora's diner. The next morning, June spotted it from the car seat and said, "They spelled Untouchable wrong." Nora laughed for the first time that week, a small spark. Warden painted over the wall himself, rolling thick strokes while kids from the skate park helped. "You paying us?" one asked. "In a town that doesn't scare easy," Warden answered. Lenny set a motion light above the trash bins. Church replaced the alley camera with something that saw more and forgot less. The rain finally stopped. The plywood window gathered signatures like a yearbook. "Keep cooking." "We've got you." "Pie therapy works." Suspense rose again on a Tuesday. Nora walked June to school, Warden's SUV a block back so it didn't feel like a parade. A white sedan idled at the far corner. The driver watched too long, then pulled out. That afternoon, 3 missed calls from an unknown number stacked on Nora's phone. She answered the 4th. Breathing. Then a whispered address, the motel off Route 7. "He has Maya," the voice said, and hung up. The world narrowed to a tunnel. Nora called Warden. He answered on the first ring and didn't waste syllables. "Meet us at the diner now." Within minutes, engines stitched the neighborhood together. Tasha shoved a go bag into the SUV. Church checked radios. Lenny handed Nora a spare hoodie. "For when it's colder than it is," he said. "Or when you are." The motel wore neglect like a second paint job. Warden parked across 2 spots, not as a threat, as a fact. He sent Church to the office for footage, dispatched Lenny and Tasha to rooms on either side of the number texted. Nora stood with him. "You don't have to come up," he said. "I know," she answered and stayed. They knocked. A chain scraped. The door opened 2 inches. Maya's eye appeared. Relief hit like air. "You okay?" "He's in the shower," she whispered. Plans moved without noise. Lenny eased the hinge with a shim. Tasha slid Maya into the hallway and wrapped her in hoodie. Rex stepped from steam, towel at his hip, a grin forming, then freezing at Warden's shadow. "End of the road," Warden said. Rex reached for the nightstand. Church was already there, palm flat on a cheap pistol. "Easy," he warned. "You're going to walk out and breathe. That's all you control tonight." Rex's shoulders fell. The fight left him like heat from rain. Police lights painted the stucco blue and red minutes later. Invited, not surprised. Church had already texted a detective who trusted him enough not to grandstand. Rex, cuffed, spat words that hit only his shoes. Maya clutched Nora's forearm, shaking so hard her teeth clicked. "It's over," Nora repeated, a mantra more than a sentence. At the station, Tasha sat with Maya through statements, doctor referrals, next steps that don't make great television but make lives possible. Outside, Warden leaned against the SUV, weathered and patient. "You did good," he told Nora. "We did right," she corrected. He nodded once. The motel sign buzzed overhead like a fly that refuses to leave a room. For the first time since the window shattered, Nora felt her lungs fill all the way. The sky was colorless and enormous. She let it be. The number 111 arrived like thunder you can schedule. It wasn't performative. It was a line in asphalt. Warden called for a unity ride. Not the whole state, not a spectacle. 111 riders from chapters that respected a simple code. You don't raise a hand to someone carrying life. You don't make a woman fear a door. They came at golden hour, long shadows stitching Main Street to the river. Helmets came off. Heads bowed for 30 seconds that said more than speeches. Warden faced the crowd. "This isn't forgiveness," he said. "It's offense." He handed Nora a vest. Black leather, no club patch, just a small stitched word over the heart. Untouchable. "Not a membership," he added. "A promise." Engines answered with a rolling yes that shook window glass and loosened old cynicism. Suspense tried a final time to steal the day. As engines idled, a lone pickup turned onto Main. Window down, driver shouting about freedoms he didn't believe other people deserved. He revved, then thought better when he saw how many mirrors could remember his license plate. The moment passed like a hiccup. Warden lifted his chin. Church and Lenny started a slow clap that turned into something bone deep. Boots on pavement, hands on hearts, tears that didn't apologize. Maya stepped forward, took Nora's hand, pressed it to the place where a heartbeat kicked. "Because you didn't move," she said. Nora shook her head. "Because you did." The sun slid lower, pulling long threads of light through spokes and spokes through light. 111 bikes eased into motion, surrounding the diner like a living wall. For the first time, Nora believed the word stitched on her chest. After the ride, the work continued in the simplest possible ways. The hotline stayed manned. The system of walks and watches hardened into routine. Warden required classes on de-escalation, not because it looked good, but because it worked. Church fixed 3 porches on houses that weren't his. Tasha organized a pantry where dignity outweighed paperwork. Nora rotated between diner shifts, safe house nights, and nursing textbooks that suddenly made sense in the light of what bodies endure and what gentleness restores. June drew motorcycles with halos and taped them to the fridge. People still argued online. People always will. In Brookside, arguments gave way to groceries on porches and rides to court. When someone scuffed the plywood again, kids chalked flowers across the whole panel. It looked briefly like spring. By winter, the diner's patched window framed a different town. Not perfect, fear doesn't retire, but braver. A cardboard sign by the register read, "Need help? Ask for the amber pie special." It came with coffee and a question asked kindly. "Are you safe?" June kept a tally in crayon of dogs they'd petted on evening walks with the convoy rumbling blocks away. Maya delivered a baby girl in late January, 3 weeks early and loud enough to claim the room. She named her River and placed a tiny knitted cap like a crown. Nora held the child and felt something unclench she hadn't realized she'd been gripping since adolescence. Outside, snow made the street holy for 10 minutes. Inside, fries hissed, a bell dinged, laughter stacked like plates. The word on Nora's vest didn't puff her up. It put weight where responsibility lives. The town told a story about the day 111 bikes made a promise at sunset, but Nora kept a different frame. The Tuesday she didn't run. The phone call that turned weather into a wall. The way June's hand felt warm through leather. She mounted a little plaque inside the diner by the pie case. Real strength isn't loud. It holds. People read it and felt taller. Some nights, when the engine chorus thinned to a hum and the neon flickered like an old heartbeat, Nora walked to the door, stepped outside, and listened. Not for trouble, for proof. Across the street, a porch light clicked on. At the corner, two helmets nodded. From somewhere downriver came the faint roll of throttle, steady and kind. Doors stayed open. That was the victory. If this story moved you, share it. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell so more people find safe doors and steady hands. In the comments, tell us where you're watching from, and who taught you what protection really means. Until next time, keep your engines kind and your courage loud.